Hello and welcome to another episode of Offensive Education. Hope everyone's having a good week. Good to see everyone on. So I've got some free codes for Texas Cyber Summit, which is coming up. So if you want a code, just type in !TCS, and that will give you the registration link and the code. And so I will also be, if you want to find you need to get the code, just and TCS. Good to see some folks on. Good to see the mayor on. Welcome. Good to see you joining us again. Saw Don Donzel on, so good to see Don again, and Ghost and all the other folks. I saw Stuns and Roses was on. It's great to see you joining. And so, make sure to register if you want. It's a 3-day conference. It's virtual and in person, but the passes I have are for virtual, so feel free to check that out. Also, Don's funny. If you're interested in the podcast, there is the link to my podcast, The Hacker Factory. Actually, one of our viewers today, the mayor, Joe Helly, he was on there. He was one of my episodes, and as well as Dave Kennedy and the Cyber Mentor and several others. Alyssa Knight. So you might want to check that out. So we got another guest tonight. So I'm excited to bring someone else on tonight. So it's always a good time when we have guests, and we've actually been kind of connected for a while. But over the weekend, I did a workshop for WCS, this women's cybersecurity group, one of my favorite groups too, by the way. She was in there as a fun workshop, and volunteered to come on and share how she got into cybersecurity. So hopefully what she can share is something with you that can help you out. So it's always good to get people's stories on how they got started, because what I did to get started, or what Joe did to get started, or someone else may not help you, but other people, their stories and their advice sometimes works better. So without further ado, welcome to the show, Megan.
On mute. Hey, how are you doing? It's great to be on.
How are you?
Doing very well. Yeah, happy start to the week.
Yeah, it's starting out pretty good. How's your week going so far?
Very well. Yeah, I mean, Sunday started with the workshop with you. Yesterday, I got some good news that I'll be speaking at Day of Security in October. So they have a fantastic 2-day conference. And then today I'm on with you. So it's been a good week.
Oh, good. Well, congrats on getting selected to speak at Day of Security. That's a pretty well-known one. I've heard of that one. So that's quite an honor to be speaking there. So that's good.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's going pretty good. I was kind of tired after Sunday after the workshop, because I did one on Friday for B-Sides Orlando, a 4-hour workshop on web app pen testing, and then on Sunday. So I was kind of tired. I was working on the labs for the workshop just right up until time for the workshop. So, but it was fun. I always enjoy workshops. That's one of my favorite ways to do training. I even enjoy that more than when I was teaching at the college. It's just the interaction, and you get people that are out in the field or trying to get in the field that are serious about it. It's a lot more interesting than when you have people in class that are not interested in class and just want credit.
Yeah, like those people who are there learning really want to be there, which makes a big difference.
It makes it a lot more interesting and fun, and you get good questions, because when people don't want to learn, you don't get questions, or there's not the interaction there. And just like on Sunday, there was a lot of good interaction.
Yeah, absolutely. I even connected with someone else from the workshop, Ashley, if you remember her. And she and I were connecting and talking about even doing a panel together for women in cybersecurity, WESIS. They have a conference in March. So I reached out to her and kind of put together a panel because I was like, she also has a great story to tell. And so we'll see if we get accepted for that conference. Just people sharing their stories of we're all career transitions into career pivots into cybersecurity. So thought that would be a really interesting panel for people to hear from.
That's good. And it's good to see more stuff like that, because that's part of the reason I wrote my book, because I was giving the talk at conferences, and this wasn't something people were doing a lot of at that time. So those kind of, just like Alyssa Miller has come out with a book kind of getting started. We needed more of that, because there's lots of books on how to do the security piece, how to do the pen testing piece, but no one tells you how to get into it or where to start. So definitely those stories on getting started are helpful. And that's what a lot of people like about when I have guests on here, or when I have or the different guests on my podcast as well, sharing that experience. So for our guests that may not know of you, could you tell our audience a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So, my name is Megan, and I am someone who has always loved technology, just tinkering, kind of taking things apart. And I was always drawn to it, but I didn't start out in cyber. And so, what I started out with doing was being an educator, actually. So, really similar to how you were teaching workshops this weekend, I was a STEM educator teaching 11th and 12th graders computer science and engineering. So, I know exactly what it feels like to have some students who are like, yes, I want to be doing exactly this. And then other ones who are like, not so much. This is not my scene. Why am I here? And imagine that these are high schoolers, right? And so I loved that work. I still love teaching, but I kept getting drawn back to technology. And so I decided, what would it look like to be in industry doing this work, and how could I take some steps towards that? And so that's kind of what I've done the past several years. Or I started taking some courses, seeing, do I like this or do I like that? Well, technology is huge. How do you decide what to do within technology? And then thinking, well, I've always loved being proactive and kind of like a defense side of things. And so I thought, well, cybersecurity within technology seems to be that. And then how would I get started with that? And so those are kind of some of the things that, I determined that I wanted to do. And I'm pretty new to industry, so I've been in since March. And so I've been working with Cyber Future Foundation, doing risk assessment and operations with them. And then I have a new role starting next week as a cyber threat intel analyst. So that's really exciting to be starting that up.
That's awesome. And that's a good area to be in. So many people want to be pen testers, and not to discourage people, that's a fun area, but the threat intelligence and threat hunting type stuff, two different roles, but those are some areas that you really hadn't heard as much of until here lately. They sound really exciting. I think if I had to do it all over again, I might move in one of those areas if I wasn't doing the pen testing.
Yeah, and it's such an important aspect to cybersecurity where you're thinking about, what are the different issues that an organization might have? What are the different attack vectors that could exist? So there are elements that even overlap with pen testing. It's a lot of gathering of information, a lot of research. So if you kind of like those things where you're like, I want to try to do some protection pieces, I really enjoy research. I like to get more information. And I personally also like to write. So if all those kind of are things that are of interest to you, this could also be a really good avenue of cyber for you. And that's also one of the things that I love about this industry, where there's just so many directions you can go. There's really not just one path, and then you can get interested in something else a little bit over here and start delving deeper into that. So it's a huge continuum of learning.
Yeah, and it's kind of good because some of these kind of build off each other. So it's not like if you spend time over here, it's going to go to waste. I mean, at threat intelligence, if you want to be a red teamer doing adversary emulation, understanding how these threat actors work, that's kind of good, good experience to have to move in that type of role.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, kind of what kind of advice would you give for someone that's wanting to get started out?
Yeah. So some of the things I like to think about are, how can you narrow your path a little bit? So, thinking about all the different aspects that go into cybersecurity, into technology, and you want to figure out where do your interests and your skills lie? Because if you're not interested in it, you're not going to want to spend the time to get more skilled at it. So it's okay if you know nothing. Like really, it really is okay because you can learn. So with that eagerness to learn and curiosity, you can then think about, well, what piques my interest versus what's a little boring to me, and then delve deeper into that. And within that, being okay just approaching people. So I mean, we met kind of officially on Sunday at that workshop, and we'd been connected online for a while and kind of commenting on each other's posts. But I reached out to you and said, hey, you said you have this show. Would that be okay if would you be interested in having me share my story? That's something you mentioned you have people do. And so I've had really great interactions with so many different people because I've been willing to say, hey, would you want to have a short chat with me? Could I help you with this thing? So just kind of trying to think about ways that you can connect with other people, and maybe like if there's something that you can bring to the table, and then if there's something that you might say, like, oh hey, like I can also be a person on your show or do this. And so I think that networking, but networking where you're also looking at ways that you can have added value, is really important. So it's not that you're just saying, doing a LinkedIn request and then never saying anything to someone, or that you're doing a LinkedIn request and like saying, hi, you don't know me, but can you be my mentor? And then the question is like, why? What is it for my profile that asked you to do that? So just kind of like having some reasons for what you're doing, curiosity, and then figuring out where passions meet your skill set. I would recommend all those things.
That's great advice, and that you mentioned that actually Joe Helly, the mayor that's on here, that's one of the things he recommends. Because anyone that is has a pretty good following, you get so many direct messages all the time, and you're going to focus on the ones that someone actually gives you something. Just hello. I mean, it's up to the person you're trying to contact to start a conversation if they want to. And a lot of times they don't have time to do that. So that's great advice. And I like some of the actions that you put in there for your, for networking, because some people just connect and leave it at that. So having a more detailed message, or just, let people, kind of let them know how you found them on Twitter. Cause I mean, not Twitter, but LinkedIn, I always like that because someone will connect and you don't know how they found you. So knowing how they found you and that sort of thing. And like you offering to help people or be on their show or whatever, or helping out others. I mean, that's one of the things that's great too is, but you have the teaching background too, but even those that don't have the teaching and mentoring background, everyone can help, because there's something that someone just started last week and may be able to share that someone else is behind them that they don't know, that they can help them out. So that's really awesome what you're doing. And it's good that I see that you're leveraging things that you kind of learned from whenever you were teaching in that area.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's one of the things I read this a while ago, but wherever you are in your journey, you're somewhere further along than someone else is. So that means that you can have some added value to someone else. You might not think it, and you might be like, "Oh my gosh, like who am I to say anything?" But you could share about your journey, some things you're learning, something you could make like an infographic about something you learn, and then that's being a contributor. And so I think that that's one of the biggest things, is to never feel like you are at a point in your learning journey, even if you're just beginning, if you're like, I don't even know what infosec is, I don't know what cybersecurity is, I don't know how those relate, you can still contribute something. And so that could be helpful to someone else. You just may not know it, and you may not know how you're inspiring other people by sharing steps of your journey.
And that's very helpful too. Even people that you're helping out, there may be somewhere down the line, they may remember that you helped them. Maybe they got to open and get their company. So just constantly always networking.
Yeah, absolutely.
So as far as different groups, since you're a member of WCS, are there some other organizations that you are a member of, or attend their functions?
Yeah, there's a few that I am. So, Women's Society of Cyber Jitsu, they do some really great workshops. So that's where I went to your workshop, and you have two more coming up with them. And then I'm a member of Women Cybersecurity, so WESIS. They just had a conference in person that I attended that was lovely. So I was in Denver, and then they have their March conference coming up. And they just do all sorts of events because they have local affiliates. So I'm in the Mid Atlantic affiliate. And then I'm in the Breaking Barriers group. And so they're a lean in circle where it's kind of one of the ideas behind, you know, cheer each other up on, lift each other up, and help and connect and kind of help make things happen. And then, just some other ones that I'm part of. I'm in OWASP, and I'm also in Cloud Security Alliance, specifically since I'm in the Mid Atlantic region, I'm in the DC chapter. So it's kind of fun to be involved in different organizations and help out where one can. Pretty good at organizing things, so I tend to do the operations side of things within those groups and help out with making things happen. I've always been someone who can kind of see to what's going to happen next and see, oh, these are all the steps along the way that we need to take to get there.
That's great. So have you been to any of Tyrone Wilson's
I have not
events?
yet. So I just connected with some people who are in they're doing Southeast DC SecCon 202, so for the area code for here. And so he's very involved with that group too. And so someone was like, oh, you have to connect with this person. So I haven't yet. So it's funny how it ends up being such a small world. But no, I'm sure I'll see him maybe in October. They're doing a whole workshop event, Cybersecurity Awareness Month. But no, I haven't run across him yet. So it
Yeah,
could
he's
also be like lack of in-person things because B-Sides DC was canceled, B-Sides Nova was digital. So yeah.
yeah, it's been pretty limited around here. I've got my first in-person events coming up. HughesCon the first week of October, and then Texas Cyber Summit the last few days of October. So I've definitely missed the in-person stuff, but it's good to take advantage of the virtual stuff because you can attend a lot more virtual things than you can in person, and you're not restricted by any kind of global barriers or anything. So anywhere in the world or anywhere in the country, you can virtually attend.
That has been a really nice thing about this. It's just so many more people are willing to hop on to video calls, that kind of thing, and connect in a global way. So I've done some international collaboration that I don't think it all would have happened if the pandemic was not going on. I would not trade one for the other, to be
Yeah.
clear. But I do think that that is a silver lining. More global interconnectedness and more collaboration, and more people able to attend virtual events. So I know, like, I have my Capture the Flag group. We all met through SAN summits, and those were made virtual and free as part of the pandemic going on. And so those used to be in person, and they didn't so much have the whole virtual component to them that they have that's really robust right now. And you can kind of build a little community from that. And so that's been really lovely.
Yeah, and I'm kind of hoping that they keep some of the hybrid piece to it because I mean, you take like DEF CON and that sort of thing, not everyone can go, or maybe they can't afford the travel, or just because it's hotel stay plus paying for a ticket. Not everyone can afford that, so the virtual thing is kind of nice to have. So hopefully they kind of keep that going, and it's kind of thankfully that Black Hills Information Security kind of figured that out early on with whenever they took their Wild West Hacking Fest West and went virtual with it. At the begin, kind of as the pandemic was really starting to shut things down. So it was kind of good because I see a lot of people followed suit. If they weren't using Discord, they're at least using Slack, so there was a way to network. But I definitely miss the in-person piece because you get finished giving a talk, or you're in someone's talk and you get finished, you can go up and talk to them and you know ask questions or network and that sort of thing. So that definitely missed that piece.
Yeah, it's almost like with conferences, it's the accidental connections that happen. You know, you're in a line like DEF CON, you're in LineCon, and then you meet some people that you would have never met just because of the happenstance of being in the same place, and you strike up a conversation. You just never know where that's going to lead. So those are like the type of things that I also miss from in-person events. So it's it was really lovely to get to go to a few recently, and as more and more come back to person for 2022, I look forward to that. But I agree. I hope that a lot of places do keep the hybrid, just because I think it makes it really accessible. And we all know that, there's a gap between the number of people who are in this industry and the jobs that are out there. So the more and more people who can learn and upskill and connect, the better it will be for the whole world's defenses.
Yes, and another good thing about the virtual stuff too is there's some people that are immunocompromised that really can't be out in crowds, even regardless of pandemic or not. And then some people that are just really shy and they just really can't be in those kind of crowds. So at least that is good and a way for people to do a lot of socializing, remotely. Say hey, Zero Sploits. Thanks for joining. So yeah, sorry, watching the chat here.
Yeah.
So as far as some things you've learned that would help people get started, I mean, what do you think was like one of the first steps for people that has never thought about doing cyber, and all of a sudden they're going to go into cyber? What would you recommend for someone that's just deciding to start? They don't have any kind of background at all. What would you recommend?
Yeah, so I would say, figure out, if you don't know already, but if you do, it's great, but figure out what are some of the best ways that you learn. Do you think that you'll need a formal program where you maybe want to go to a boot camp or get a degree or something like that? Or are you very self guided, and you can do less of a formal program and like learn on your own? And then thinking about, what kind of combination of resources will you need to get to where you want to go? So are you going to be, watching YouTube videos, going to workshops, reading digital books, physical books, etc.? Just kind of figuring out, like, I think it starts with introspection, figuring out yourself a little bit, and then thinking about, what do I want to do? And it's okay if you don't know what you want to do within the field, because there's a lot of different options, but there are some good places to kind of start with, like looking at you know a variety of different I can pull it up. There's have you ever seen the visual of this domains of cyber? I think that can be a really good place to start.
Yeah, you can share your screen if you want to bring that up.
Yeah, let me pull it up.
Yeah, this is a really interesting field because there's a lot of other fields that you have to have a college degree to get into it. And so that's what's nice about this, degree or no degree or certifications and certain areas of the field, certifications are more important than degrees, and then just the opposite in other areas.
And I think some of that also depends on what roles you're looking for, and as well as regionally where you are. So, like, for example, I know some places in the East Coast government, you absolutely have to have a certification, right? So it really just depends. And let's see. So I found it.
So yeah, that was a really good point you brought up about figuring out how you learn best. I think so many people jump right into trying to learn that they don't even take that in consideration.
So it looks like screen share is disabled. So, oh no, here we go.
Yeah.
Got it. There you go. Okay, so can you see that?
Yes.
Yeah, so this is something, if you just search visual cybersecurity domains, I think this is a really, really helpful visual for different aspects. And so Henry here wrote an article, and this is even his 2.0 version. Um, so updated in March of this year. So actually, we've got an even more recent one. Um, it's really zooming in. I'm going to go back to the 2.0 just because it's a little bit less
Okay.
zoomed in. But if you want to go to the 3.0, you can see that it has a lot more details regarding, we'll say like OWASP top 10 and that kind of thing. But what I like about this is you can just see all these different branching points, and you can also think about like how many of these nodes are interconnected. And so to me, one of the things you can start with literally is just exploring different parts of cyber, because you won't know what is of interest to you and what is not of interest to you until you start trying out different things. So that's, do a little bit of experimenting, attend some of the free workshops and summits that exist. And as you're going to those, try to go to a variety of things and just take note of, wow, that really sparked my interest, or nah, not so much. And then think about why. And then that can kind of help give you a pathway for like, oh, I really like that threat intelligence I like to research, or think I'm more interested in security controls and doing some engineering, getting some more like hands on the keyboard. Or like you, like maybe going into pen testing and thinking about like, okay, well, what are going to be my steps to do that? Do I need to go get like OSCP or something like that? And what type of different pathways might you need to take to get to that role? But first, I would start kind of broad and explore a lot of things and then narrow. So almost take like a generalist approach.
Yeah, it's good advice too. And sometimes if you take something or go to workshops, like you mentioned, there's free workshops and low cost workshops out there that people can attend and just get an idea. Going to a conference and setting in on different talks. So like in one day, you got the opportunity to see a bunch of different areas to get an idea and then be able to talk to people that work in those areas professionally too.
Yeah, and that was something I did early on too, where I just talked to people and I said, what was your pathway to get to where you are today? And I found those fascinating conversations to have, because you could kind of pick people's brains about, how did you get to where you are today? What did you do? Did you get certifications? Did you not? I see some conversation going on about that in the chat as well. And so I would really agree that it just completely depends on the organization, the region, et cetera, if they need those things, degrees or certs. Sometimes you can just say, this is the experience I have. These are my proof of concepts, because that was always my big thing. I wanted to be able to have tangible things I was doing, digitally tangible even, of course, that showed proof of concept. Like, how could I demonstrate, I know XYZ because I've done these things. And so I think the more you're trying to build out a portfolio for yourself related to the thing you want to do and start establishing those proof of concepts, I think that can be really strong as well.
That's a good idea. And one of the things too, for anyone that's on the fence about a degree or whatever, if you do, well, I'll say this: if you do go for a degree, try to find a program that has internships, because that is going to make it a lot easier for you to get a job after you're finished with your degree if you can find an internship. Because some cases you can actually get hired on. My wife is in digital forensics, and she went through an internship and she got hired on permanently where she's at. So, and just having that experience, because what happens most of the time when you get turned down, you don't have experience. So if you can get an internship, that's a good way to get in. So most cases you're going to have that. One of the things I would really like to see, and I actually talked to a company that does some pen test as a service type stuff a while back, about like a apprenticeship program. But one of the things you would do there, for that to really do well, you would have to get a lot of different organizations on board, because one company couldn't make enough of an impact, because it's like internships. You can only hire about two or three, or have two or three interns per semester or per year, and that just doesn't scale very well. So you need more people getting into that. So
Yeah, you definitely need a network of organizations who agree that this is important. We value this. We want to train people up, upskill them. And so I know Naomi Buckwalter is also working on that with breaking, what's it called, the Gateways program that she's trying to establish. So I know that that's in very early stages, but it's something that is really important to figure out ways to train people so that once they leave that program, be an internship, apprenticeship, then they have some skills that they can apply to those specific jobs that they're applying for.
Just gotta look at here. So yeah, it's yeah, really good. I've been following along, seeing some of the stuff Naomi's doing. That's great stuff there, and I really agree with her, a lot of her thinking too. And this is one of the things that frustrates me, from being a teacher, formerly teaching at a college and then mentoring folks and seeing people trying to get into the industry, that there's too many times that, these companies, they need people, but they're not willing to give people a chance. And they got these ridiculous job descriptions. They want you to have experience for like an entry level job, and entry level jobs, really shouldn't require experience.
Yeah, or you see those job posts that like require you to have like 12 years experience in Docker, not possible. Entry person, they want you to have different certs that are like pretty high level. It's like that doesn't compute well.
One of the one of the best things I saw was someone had actually created some type of Java scripting language and Java, some of the JavaScript backend stuff. And they, on the job description, he applied for the job that you need to have this number of years of experience with this, what React or whatever .js. And the guy had responded back, "Hey, I created that, and it hasn't been around that many years that you're requiring the experience." So it's just kind of funny.
Wow. He's like, I read your job description and I saw that you required this much time on Node.js. And I'm actually the creator of that. And you know what? It hasn't been around for 14 years.
Yeah, it's funny how that stuff goes. I mean, and some of these job descriptions and the way they're written, and sometimes I don't know, because sometimes people write the job descriptions aren't the people hiring the job. It could be HR. Sometimes they don't understand it. And then too many times people get intimidated because they see this long laundry list of certifications and skills that they want you to have. And one of the things I would say, based on my experience, and I'd be curious to see what you think, is you see something out there, apply for it regardless, because the worst thing that's going to happen is you're going to get turned down. But you apply for enough jobs, and someone sooner or later is going to interview you, or you're going to find a job.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with that. And particularly women, we tend to not apply for jobs unless we're 90 to 100% meeting all the things that they've listed. And then you see these jobs that it's like everything but the kitchen sink. And so I would really, really encourage anyone who feels intimidated that you should apply, because you shouldn't be the person who's saying no. To you for that job. You should say, let me see where I can get in this process. But another thing I would also recommend is, seeing where that job is being posted. And do you know someone who works at that company to try to connect with them? Or do you know someone who knows someone? It's like a second level connection. Because the more you can have a person looking at your resume as opposed to the applicant tracking system, the ATS, the better off you're going to be. And then someone, if they actually know you, can vouch for you and say, "Oh yeah, I know. Phil, he does these workshops. He's great. You should definitely hire him, right?" Or yeah, Megan, like she's got this wonderful experience. You should totally go for her. And so you can kind of have someone who's championing you on the back end and pushing your resume forward. So that can be another thing to think about, is making that human connection and not just doing the digital application.
Yeah, that's great advice there, because anymore, most of my jobs nowadays are through referrals, because I know people, and like you said, getting around the HR system where you apply. The company I work for now, I returned, US Bank. I'd worked there, went to work for them back in 2017 for the first time. And around the same time I applied with them, also applied at Bank of America, and I had all the experience, certifications. I shouldn't have had a problem getting the job, but I went through their job site, uploaded my resume, and I didn't hear from them until about a year later. And I was already working at US Bank and things were going well there. It's just, if I would have known someone internally and gave them my resume, then I would have at least got an interview out of the deal. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I'm sure with your experience, that's absolutely true, you know. And so I think that that's like another impact for networking where it's like the more people you know, the more real connections you've made. So it's not just like a click connect, right?
Mhm.
Then people know your name, because that's another thing about security that I thought about as I was going into industry. You know, you have to be a known factor. So, you know, it's hard to pivot. Like I was scared. Like I left teaching and I was very successful in that. And, you know, it was a little bit scary to go into that unknown and think about, you know, what's going to happen? What if, you know, this is a failure? And so that taking that like leap of faith. But one of the things that I thought about was you need to get your name out there, because for people to trust you, they need to know you're not a bot, that you are real, and that you are helping, right? And so to me, it's always been a core value of mine to help and contribute. That's just something that we're kind of raised to do. But I also wanted to make sure that, you know, people then associated my name with security and with this industry. And so I think that doing that very deliberately so that you are then a known factor as opposed to an unknown can also be very beneficial when you're doing your first job hunting, if you're doing a career pivot or if you're just starting and not coming from a former career as well.
And that's great advice for even people that have been in the industry and you want to improve your chances of better job opportunities, more money. Because one of the things back before 2018, I was networking with some local meetups. I hadn't been to any national conferences yet. And I, networked locally and I connected with people on LinkedIn. But then once I started speaking at conferences and becoming more well known, it made it a lot easier to find jobs, because one of my last jobs, they knew about me in the company, and the guy there that was my manager wasn't on Twitter, wasn't really active on LinkedIn, but he knew of me from the industry. So that's great advice, even for someone getting experience.
Yeah, the more you're known, then you can be trusted, right? It's like, oh, this person knows this person's done this thing. They're real,
Yeah,
not
and
an AI.
and some of the advice that the mayor Joe Helly gives people is doing content creation and stuff. You see a lot of people that are getting started out now that they're doing a lot of content creation. They've got a YouTube channel, they've got a stream or a podcast, and that helps get you noticed and people know of you, and you have people connect with you because they see your podcast and stuff. So it makes it, I think it's actually even more important when you're just getting started out.
Yep, I would agree. I'm liking some of the things in chat where it's like someone was saying, "I'm not a bot."
Yeah.
I also feel the captcha from time to time, especially when it's like something that spans multiple photos.
Yeah, I've come to the conclusion I am a robot because I've felt enough captures. Those things get annoying, and like when I in the workshop, I was talking about how exploit DB, they still got a captcha, but it's not the way it used to be. But used to, you had to do the captcha just about all and you just got to where it was unusable. Yeah, those captchas, I see the importance, but sometimes they make it too much of a pain.
I also think most AI can solve them actually.
Yeah, you're probably right there. That's what AI is going to, and machine learning is going to replace people logging in with captchas.
Oh, for sure, for sure. Yeah, especially when you get into like the computational stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, seeing some of the comments here and some of the people on Ghost that's on here, he does a lot of volunteering, so that's also a good thing too. And like you had mentioned, some of the volunteering, you volunteer for some of these workshops. You got like the SANS work study group. that you can get into SANS courses for a lot less. I think it's up to like $2,500 now, but for $2,500 you get a $7,000 course plus I think an exam attempt and access to the content on demand. So volunteering is a big deal. I've had students and people I've mentored in the community that were, like just going to meetups in Dallas. This is back pre-pandemic, and they really didn't know people very well, but they went and volunteered at B-Sides DFW once, and then all of a sudden it was like it almost added years to their what would normally take a year or 2 years to build up that networking from helping out. And when people see you helping, that's the kind of people they want to hire, people they want to network with.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know if that's the ghost who's also in Day of Security. So if that's him, he does a ton of work behind the scenes for Day of Security and is amazing. So not sure. I know his hacker handle is just Ghosts, but this one had some numbers by it, so that's why I wasn't sure. So one of the things you can do is, you can think about what skills you have and how those could be things you could use to contribute to others. So I knew that I'd spoken at conferences for years, so I could help mentor other people for their CFPs and for first time speakers. And so that's something that I did with the Diana Initiative and also did with Day of Security as well, where I was a mentor for first time speakers. And then TDI does this really lovely thing where they have 2 rounds for their call for proposals or presentations, wherever you want to have that P mean. It means different things, call for papers. And so basically, if you were rejected from the first round, then you could opt in to receive feedback and have a mentor help you get some feedback even more, and then reapply for the second round, which I thought was lovely. And you really don't see that for any other conferences. I mean, some of them give you feedback, but most of them don't. So either if you're accepted or rejected, you don't get feedback on your abstract, your proposal, etc. But they did this huge feedback thing, and then I love that 2-round setup. And so I helped 2 other young women. One was a first-time speaker, and another one had been speaking a couple times, but not very many. Kind of work tremendously on the detail of their abstract, really taking what they had in mind for their whole talk and like looking at, well, who's the audience? Why do you want to have this there? How would you organize this? And so we came up with like a whole outline, and then they were both accepted in the second round, which was amazing. So then I got to attend their talks and just cheer them on. So I love that kind of thing where you can see like, okay, these people are really, putting in that effort, and I can be here behind the scenes cheering them on too. So I think that that's a great thing that one can do. And you have so many people that do like Cyber Mentor Mondays. I know that's a big thing on Twitter. So like same thing, like I often reply to that and say, if anyone needs help with CFPs, reviewing for speaking at a conference, I'm really happy to help with that.
Yeah, that is good that they give you the second chance, because sometimes it just some little bit of tweaking that you need to be able to get accepted. And once you get used to that, that's good. One of the things advice I give anyone too is now with all the stuff being virtual, it's easier to speak virtually. So the thing to do now during the pandemic is submit talks and do as much as that you can, because then once it comes back to in person, you're going to be a little more confident. You may still be a little bit nervous, but getting the experience is a big help.
Yeah. And also, a lot of people don't like watching a recording of themselves, but those are usually recorded talks. And so then it's something that you can go back and watch a recording and think about ways you can improve also, which not every in-person conference records their talks. You don't always get that feedback. But you have to sit through watching yourself give a talk too. So you have to be willing to do that.
Yeah, that's one of the things for me that's the toughest, is watching recordings or recording when no one else is here. So when no one else is, just you, it's kind of tough. Like it would be easier for me to record something if you were listening, because actually for Hacking is Not a Crime, investigator Chick and myself, we recorded some videos for, I think it was during B-Sides Las Vegas, that they played some videos in the village and different people talking about what hacking is not a crime means to them.
Mm.
And fortunately, we recorded together, so you kind of had someone listening. And when you do it by yourself, man, in 2019, I guess it was, CompTIA asked me if I would do a 2-minute video on my opinion of the state of cybersecurity.
Mm.
And I probably did like 20 or 30 retakes on that video because I kept goofing up. So it's just kind of hard. And then when you record yourself, you feel like it's got to be perfect. So when it's in person, you stumble over your words or you say something wrong, you can correct it and it's not so bad. Then when you're trying to record, sometimes you feel like it has to be perfect. I don't know about you, but that's kind of the way I feel about recordings.
Oh, 100%. I did a recording. WeSys, the Women in Cybersecurity group, is doing a comboed thing with NIST and how there's all these different standards for cybersecurity, and they want to have someone speaking to each different one. And so I did a recording for that. I think I recorded it 5 times because I would go back and listen and be like, don't quite like that. And let me play around with the lighting a little bit. Let me change this. And then I realized at one point that I had the wrong background because they wanted us to have a certain background on, to have like a virtual background behind. So yes, I think there's way more recordings that happen when you are doing a recording and then listening to it, as opposed to just doing that live talk. And then, you can kind of riff off being a little nervous when you're in person and be like, guys, I'm everyone, I'm a bit nervous right now. And people will cheer you on for that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. So, yeah.
People are very understanding because that's, not an easy thing for people, and they understand. And some people in the audience are saying, thinking to themselves, I wish I could be up there doing that. And that's one of the people sympathize and understand that. And people don't expect, they don't expect you to be perfectly polished and professional, all that. So, I mean, you'd be surprised. And that's one of the things I kind of found out because when I wanted to start speaking at conferences during the CFP for B-Sides DFW in 2013, the people that were coordinating the conference said that one of the best jobs they got of their career was because they spoke at conferences, and that was something I was interested in. So like the next week, I went and signed up for Toastmasters and did Toastmasters for a while, and that really helped me. And that helped me get over my fear of speaking because before one of the things with me is I would be up there super nervous, but I really didn't reflect it. People didn't see it, and so that was enough for me to get by with speaking. Okay, so I'm not looking like a fool or something. People don't realize that I'm ridiculously nervous, and I just got used to it. And you get the practice, and you're not as nervous anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I think many people are nervous. I believe it's more, public speaking is more feared than like the dentist. And I also like Black Unicorn's comment. There was like, I hate my voice. I think pretty much everyone hates their voice. They listen back and they're like, oh, do I really sound like that? Because we can't hear the way that we sound in recordings just from a physics standpoint. And so then you hear yourself and you're like, but that's not what I sound like in my head. That's so weird. So I think it kind of throws one off when you hear that recording then, but other people might be like, oh, your voice is lovely, like, why would you hate it? So, but I think it's pretty universal that most people, when they see a recording of themselves, they're like, ah.
Yeah, I can't really think of very many people that say they like their voice. I've never heard anyone say that.
Yeah,
So yeah,
but
the speaking in public, I really miss that. I'm looking forward to HUSECCon and Texas Cyber Summit to be able to present in person again.
yeah, and that's just in a few weeks, right? The Texas Cyber one.
Texas Cyber Summit's at the end of October, but HUSECCon is the first week of October. So I got my hotel booked, and I'm actually driving because one of the things I'm more concerned with, I'm not really concerned. Well, the good thing is about HUSECCon, they're requiring masks. And I think they may be requiring vaccinations. I'm not sure. But Texas Cyber Summit, if you're in person, they are requiring masks and that you be vaccinated. And I'm not sure that they've gone to maybe even you have to have like a test showing that you're not positive
Mm.
for COVID. So that I'm not so worried about being in person. It's just being on the planes, flying to conferences because you're in this cramped space without a lot of good ventilation, right smacked up tight against a bunch of other people. So that, and I don't like to drive. Usually my rule is if it's If it's 4 hours or more, I won't drive. Up to about 2 hours or so, I'm okay. I don't mind driving. And I would fly, just about everywhere. Normally, I would fly to Texas Cyber Summit or HughesCon, but I'll be I'll be driving this time.
Yeah, I definitely feel safer right now with the driving to places. I did fly just a little bit. Um, so I went to DEF CON, and Ghost is exactly correct. We got shiny bracelets. I saw someone post the other day on Twitter that they're like, does anyone else still have theirs on? And I was like, no, I cut mine off a while ago, but I kept it. But this is my first DEF CON actually, and so yeah, I did DEF CON in Black Hat. So I flew to that, and then I flew to the WESIS conference. But my mom is a nurse practitioner, so she was like, okay, these are all the steps you have to take. You need to get bacitracin, which is a basically like kills different diseases. And she's like, put that in your nose. So wash your hands first, and
Oh
then put
wow.
that around your nostrils. Then obviously, wear your like really good mask, and then have the air vent completely on so that you're having an additional flow of air around you to like just be dispersing things. So she's like, do all those things, and then 5 days after you get home, after your like last flight, then get a test, and even if you're asymptomatic, just to make sure. So those are kind of my medically regimented steps for my mom. So
Yeah, you need to do a YouTube video on that. That would be very helpful.
steps for flying. So, yep. But no, it's yeah, the in-person stuff is really lovely. I'm sure you'll have a great time at those two conferences.
Yeah, it's been so long. I was actually going to go to DEF CON. I was on the fence about it, and some of my friends that were going were, someone I know, he did his research and trusted his opinion, and then come up, his wife was really worried about him going. They got two kids that can't be vaccinated. So he ended up canceling. But then my daughter also, Wednesday before I'd be flying out to DEF CON, had to have her gallbladder removed, and I didn't want to be out of state if something didn't go well with that. So that, just the night I had to go pick her up, take her to the hospital for a gallbladder. I could, and I was that was just a 20-minute drive. I couldn't imagine trying to get back from Vegas if something went wrong.
No, you want to be there if that happens. Which fortunately, it sounds like surgery went well, recovery went well. But yeah, you want to be close to home.
They just seen Kimberly McKnight comment. I know she was supposed to be here, but I just saw her comment.
Yep, conferencing in 2021. That's exactly right. Yeah, yeah, Kim and I were both at the WESIS conference. Actually, she was there
Oh,
too.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, someone else I'll have to have on the stream sometime.
Oh, you should. Yeah, she's
Yeah.
great. So she and I are both in the group for kind of pushing back the barriers that Naomi's leading. She's actually the commander of my group, and I'm the second in command.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So thanks for joining us, Kimberly. Thanks for what all you do for the community.
And yes, we can see you in the sense that you're typing. The person who just said that. We can't see you.
I'd have to send you a special file to be able to see you, so and you'd have to click on it. So you have any other advice that you'd like to share that you could think of that we didn't cover?
We covered a lot. Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is, you can kind of think about taking inspiration from others who have made it in industry, and that you can do this too. But it won't be easy. It's not all unicorns and cupcakes and such. Even if your handle has unicorns in it, and you'll hit some times where there will be struggles, and that's okay. So like, I know that I've had several times where I've applied for conferences and haven't been accepted, or like I had a advanced Cisco networking class where we had to set up layer 2 and layer 3 and do all the protocols, and that was really, really hard. And I had to like reach out to the instructor and say, these are my struggles, this is the thing I'm like working on, this is what I don't get. So know that if you struggle, it's okay. And not everyone posts about their struggles. Like, I try to post about it from time to time, like, this is something I did that was hard, or I failed at, or I almost failed at. And so I think it's important to recognize that a lot of what you see on like socials, like, be it Twitter or LinkedIn or what have you, is people posting the positives, but there's also struggles that are behind that. So if you're having those struggles, it's a very real part of the process. One of the things I like to say with coding is we actually learn from our failures. So we get failures, we get errors, and then you need to debug those errors, right? And so it's literally you have to fail to learn what's wrong with the code you're writing to then go and fix it. And so it's okay to fail. And it's okay to then keep on pushing past that failure. But it's also okay to fail and be like, man, I need to like go outside for a little bit, or like I have a chinchilla, like I need to go pet my chinchilla or whatnot. So it's perfectly okay. But yeah, no, I think a lot of the other stuff we kind of covered. And so, I'm a fairly positive person. So, I'm definitely someone who would be cheering you on. So if you wanted to reach out and connect with me either on Twitter or LinkedIn, I'm happy to connect on both and cheer you on wherever you are in your journey too. And I'm sure Phil would be the same as well too.
Yeah, I like that too, cheering people on. That's what we need to do. I know if you're trying to get into the industry and you're not having much luck and someone else is a little luckier than you, cheer them on, be positive. That stuff's contagious. You put out positivity, you're going to help make other people's day better. So just cheering each other on is a good thing. So I really do like that, because you just don't know when someone is just that one step away from giving up, and you may be just the nudge they need to keep them going. And just kind of give yourself a break. If this stuff was super easy, then everyone would do it and it wouldn't pay as well as it does. So I mean, just keep trying, and as you keep trying applying for jobs and keep on, the better you're going to do. It's just like sales. If you make 10 cold calls, you're not going to sell something, but if you make 100 calls, you're going to sell something. So there's like a percentage of attempts that you have to make to succeed, and just keep on until you finally reach that point. You get your foot in the industry, you get that experience, then it gets easier the next time. So
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's about figuring out where you're going to break it in, and yeah, we'll both be here cheering you on.
yeah, I'd like to give a shout out too. We got Lewis from Pentester Lab, the creator of Pentester Lab, is on. So thanks for joining us again. I still need to talk to you about getting you on the podcast or the stream. So I haven't forgot about you, and it's good to see you on, so I can look at trying to figure out something that works for our schedules to be able to get you on. So it's always cool when I get to see people like that I get to see my heroes like Lewis from Pentester Lab and stuff join. He's got a really cool. Anyone that's if you hadn't checked out Pentester Lab, I highly recommend it. It's like some of the best web app pen testing training that you can find, and the labs are really nice. The labs on there are great. I've actually went through it, and one of the things too is Lewis and the Pentester Lab. One of the things I love what he does is he's big on giving away training, and especially for like a lot of times when he does these giveaways, he likes it to go to underrepresented groups and stuff. So that is like a really one of the things he likes. And then whenever I did a talk several years ago on my Pentester Blueprint talk before it became a book, I had tweeted out all the different resources, the different training companies that were in my talk. And Lewis actually gave me a year subscription to Pentester Lab. And these other ones, some people thanked me, some people liked it, some people didn't even respond. But Lewis really hooked me up. He sent me a t-shirt, stickers, and this really cool zipper pull, and best of all, 365 days of lab time on there. So, and if you're a student too, they have student discounts on there. And not a lot of these different training resources give student discounts, but if you use your EDU email, you can get a discount. So definitely worth checking out. They got some different badges on there related to Unix and Linux. So it's not all web application. So there's other good stuff in there too. And one of the things I loved compared to some of the other web app pen testing stuff is that there's a way to get a shell or get system control over something, you'll learn how to do it in that training environment. So we're getting down to the end of the show. Actually, at the end of the show, if anyone has any questions, let us know. And I appreciate your time, Megan. It was really good having you on and good to talk to you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Happy to share anytime.
It was fun having you in the workshop too. I really had some good feedback and good interactions. It was a fun workshop.
Yeah, I definitely enjoyed it. Good tools.
Yeah. Well, it looks like we don't have any other comments. So thanks everyone for joining. We appreciate it. And thanks, Megan. And we'll see everyone next time.